In this video, we're going to talk about how to do internal and external PAILs and rails for the hips. This is a great tool if in your 90-90 position you're really struggling with a lot of cramping, if you're struggling with getting into a proper 90-90 position from just a pure flexibility position. This will also help strengthen the hips and internal external rotation, which is going to protect you from a lot of injuries on the field. So what we want to do is we want to get into our standard 90-90 position. If you don't know much about this position, if you don't know how to get into it or the details of it, go back and watch our 90-90 video, which goes into just the basics of 90-90 position, what it's used for, and how to master it. This is kind of a next level step from that. So first we're going to talk about external rotation of the hip. So that's going to be this front hip in 90-90. What we want to do is we want to further acquire range of motion, and we want to strengthen the muscle and the tissue in a position that is not really comfortable in right here. This is not comfortable for most people. The muscle's not used to firing right here. That's why that cramping sensation starts to happen. When your tissue gets into a position that it's not used to firing in, then it starts to cramp because it just doesn't know what to do. So what we have to do is we have to teach it to fire there. We have to teach it to fire in that compromised or uncomfortable position. So we're going to get into this 90-90 position, 90 degrees at every joint. With this, I like to start athletes off in this standard 90-90. What I have found is that with some athletes, this isn't quite challenging enough for this front hip. And I'm wanting to feel this on the bottom side of this front leg and this front glute. So if you get here and we go through some of the coaching and you're still not really feeling a great stretch from this outside hip and this glute, what you can do is you can further extend this back knee, okay? This isn't quite 90-90 anymore, but I'm going to further challenge the front hip by getting more extension from this back leg, and now I don't need as much flexion forward to gain the same range of motion and stretching in this hip. But we'll do the standard right here just to explain what we're doing. Just understand if you go through this and you're just like, I'm not feeling a stretch at all, get this back knee back behind you more, and you're going to be able to further feel a stretch in this front glute. Now, where you feel the stretch is important. You might need to play around with some different torso angles to feel the stretch in the proper position, okay? So it's okay to play a little bit. What's important is you've got to feel the stretch where you're trying to stretch, okay? Sounds very basic and simple, but you'd be surprised how many people just don't feel the stretch where they're supposed to, and they go through and they're just wasting their time. So what we want to do is we're going to be in our 90-90 position. I want to square up to this front knee as much as I can. If you need to place an outside hand to make sure you're not falling over at first, that's okay. I want to get in a very good posture position. So I want my chest up. I want to have my belly button pushed forward. I want to take this back hip and tailbone an anterior pelvic tilt. Now what that means is I'm trying to take my hips and rotate them back so my tailbone's coming up and away from you. Almost like if you were standing here, you're trying to stick your butt back about to do an RDL. So I've got my hips tilted back, my chest is big, and then I'm going to hinge forward, keeping that good posture, pushing my belly button down towards my front knee. I'm going to go as far as I can into this position until I really feel a strong stretch in this back hip. So for me, that happens right about here. I'm tilting my hips back, my chest is nice and big, I'm pushing into it, and we're going to hold this for 2 full minutes. Set your watch, set a phone in front of you. The 2 minutes is really important. That tissue doesn't start to release until we get 2 minutes into it. So we're going to stretch this for 2 minutes, and at the end of that 2 minutes is when the PAILs and the rails begin. So we'll initiate that by first putting pressure into the ground with my knee, my shin, and my ankle. So I'm in this maximum stretch position. I've been here for 2 minutes. I've started shifting forward. My chest is big. I'm feeling the outside hip. And now with 10% effort, 1 out of 10, I'm going to start pushing into the ground. And as I push into the ground, I'm going to hold that for 5 to 10 seconds. I'm going to ramp it up to 3 out of 10, 30% effort. Keeping that chest big, not changing my posture at all. Then we're going to bring it up to 50% effort. Go ahead and lock your fist down. Start squeezing every muscle in your body so you can produce more force. Take it up to 70% effort. And then finally we'll be full effort for 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now I want to hold this position. Don't move anything. Now we're going to gain more range of motion, but we're going to do it by using the opposite muscles that we just used. So now I want to pull my sternum, my belly button further into the stretch, 1 out of 10 effort, 10%. Then I'll bump it up to 30%. Then 50. Again, I'm going a little faster here, but it should take 5 to 10 seconds for each of these. Then 70. I'm locking everything down. And then 10 out of 10 effort. All you got for 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I can relax. You'll gain range of motion in that external rotation of the hip like that. You saw I'm really coaching through it right now, so I'm not fully engaged in doing a PAIL and rail, and even just coaching through it, demonstrating, I gained several inches of range of motion. Now, what about internal range of motion? This back hip, well, this one's actually going to be harder for most people to feel than this front hip. This is a real challenge for a lot of people, but you gain a lot of range of motion here, and you gain a lot of benefit in injury prevention by strengthening this back hip and that internal range of motion. So what we want to do is we want to stay in this 90-90 position, 90 degrees at the ankle, knee, hip, everything just like we do normally. And now I'm going to rotate my shoulder towards my back foot. Now this one's going to be harder to get into, so feel free if you need to go ahead and put those hands behind you and brace yourself up. Posture is important, okay? So I want to keep that big chest. I don't want to get rounded ever in this position. I like to take that hand, if capable, and grab that back ankle, okay? That helps me keep in the posture I want to have, keep that good neutral spine, stacked hips. Also helps me pull my shoulders towards the hips, so I'm really challenging right here. Then what I want to do is I want to take this gap underneath my thigh, push it down, okay? So start taking away some of the stress of the room down there. Chest is big, and I want to start pulling this shoulder towards this back hip. And even right now, I'm lighting up all through this back leg, into that hip capsule, up through my back even a little bit right there. That's what you want. So we're going to get in this position. Great posture, neutral spine, shoulders are tilted, pulling back towards this foot. I'm going to hold this for 2 minutes, just like we did. At the end of that 2 minutes is when we begin our PAILs and our rails. So for the initial part of this, where we're starting to push into the ground, it's going to be a little bit different. With this front leg, we did both knee and ankle into the ground full force. On this back leg, I still want to push the knee into the ground a little bit, but I really want to concentrate on the back ankle being my pivot point, where I'm driving force into the ground. So we're right here. We get through our 2 minutes of stretching passively. We're nice breathing during that too. If you look at our PAILs and rails video, you realize I want to have diaphragmatic breathing, just deep breaths the whole time. I want to relax as much as I can while going into the stretch. But now we're going to create tension. I'm going to take that foot and 1 out of 10 push it into the ground. Posture up to a 3 out of 10. Up to a 5 out of 10 or 50%. Lock everything down, bring it up to 70%, and then full effort driving the foot into the ground. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now is the key. I want to keep my knee in the ground, but this time I'm going to try to lift my shoulder into this foot. So it's going to be the sensation of lifting this foot up off the ground, but instead of the foot coming up, I'm pulling my shoulder deeper into the stretch. So I'm right here, I'm in the position, I'm going to pull into the stretch, now I'm lifting up. 10, 30%, 50%, 70%, and then you're going to pull that shoulder in there for 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So those are our 90-90 internal and external PAILs and rails. That's how we're going to gain range of motion in our 90-90 position. You're going to strengthen those hips in a position they're not normally getting into, okay? And it's going to really help us out just with our overall mobility, squat positions. Everything starts with the hips. So this is something really good to do once or twice a week.